Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be more of a chill video compared to my previous ones. I'm just going to draw a soldier and talk a bit about the design and some of the references I've used. If you'd like some context for the setting, or just if you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the last video I made, which gives a brief summary of the main 500-year timeline. This soldier is a common spearman of the Ming Empire around the 3200s, although this sort of equipment would stay in use throughout the subsequent Five Kingdoms era. During this period, the main body of a Central Plains army was made up of levied infantry, with communities being required to supply and arm a certain number of men who'd be sent off to fight. Equipment at this time was in no way standardized, and the armor worn and weapons used would vary, sometimes significantly between individuals. Depending on the region, there might be requirements laid down, but in general, it was the responsibility of the local community to arm the soldiers they send appropriately. The most common protection at this time was thick padded textile armor, similar to European gambeson from our own history. Cotton, flax, and hemp were among the many crops cultivated in the Central Plains, and the expertise for weaving and working with fabric was ubiquitous. As such, high-quality padded armor was easy to obtain, and it was common for the soldiers themselves and their families to produce their own, as they would with other clothing. Shields would be made either from wood or woven with rattan or willow, and then potentially faced with hardened fabric. I've learned that there were many ways historically for hardening textiles, such as with wine and salt, but my research is incomplete, so I don't want to say a certain method definitively. I'd like to draw attention to the strapping design I've chosen to use, as I spent a while researching different styles from different parts of the world throughout history. I ended up taking inspiration from Byzantine and Central Asian shields, which had this sort of two-handle design that I've drawn here, but I've gone with cord for the straps, instead of leather, which was most common historically. The in-universe reason for this is that livestock with suitable hides were uncommon in the Central Plains, especially in the earlier centuries. Leather became more prevalent after the expansion of the Khan Empire, which proliferated aspects of nomadic culture throughout its conquered regions, but the people of the Central Plains would always have a strong culture of working with textiles and cordage. Another reason I chose this sort of strapping was its versatility, since you can either hold both handles in one hand to get extra reach and finer control, or you can put your forearm through one and hold the other, similar to a European kite or heater shield. Also, while this is conjecture from me, I could see soldiers wearing the shields further up their arm to allow them to hold a longer spear with both hands. There are a few reasons why this soldier isn't wearing any iron or steel armor, but it mainly comes down to cost and availability. Under the Ming Empire and the subsequent Five Kingdom states, metalworking demand was fulfilled on a local level, and there was never really any state-sanctioned workshops or mining efforts. This meant that the same blacksmiths producing a community's farming tools and household items would also be the ones tasked with producing armor and weapons. As you can imagine, their services were in high demand, and so for the common levy outside of a simple spearhead and a secondary like a hatchet or the short sword I've drawn here, textile was a much more available alternative. The first piece of iron armor a soldier would invest in would always be a helmet, and simple lamellar helmets were common in this period. That said though, wicker helmets do show up historically, such as in southern China, so assuming that it would be constructed like the shield from rattan, the hat I've drawn on this soldier, paired with the padded arming cap he's wearing, would not be useless by any means. The shape of the hat is inspired both by straw hats common in a lot of East Asian cultures, but mainly by Japanese jingasa, the conical helmets often worn by ashigaru foot soldiers during Japan's Warring States period. The straw sandals he's wearing also take heavy Japanese influence, following the design of traditional waraji. I want to also include other designs for straw sandals, from China and Korea for example, but I definitely plan to feature waraji most prevalently. The reason for this, beyond just liking how they look, is that I'd like to include split-toed styles of boots in the timeline's later centuries. These will likely be similar to Japanese jikatabi boots, so having these sorts of split-toed sandals gives a natural start point for that kind of footwear to develop. As you see pictured, the most common weapon used by soldiers during this period was a spear paired with a shield. Pairings such as a sword and shield were also used, especially in skirmishing parties or by the soldiers in a powerful general's retinue, but the spear, though innocuous, was the king of the open battlefield. In battles against the southern kingdoms, and against other plains armies during the Ming Civil War and Five Kingdoms era, cavalry was an exceedingly rare sight, as horses themselves were both rare and prohibitively expensive outside of the steppe. These battles were instead fought almost entirely between large infantry formations, supported by archers. In these sorts of battles, where the styles of units used were roughly equivalent across the various combatants, battles would be won or lost not due to superior equipment, but by superior positioning and numerical strength of an army, combined with superior morale, logistics, and leadership. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the design I've painted on the hat. I've taken a mix of inspiration from various painted European helmets, which were pretty common among lower-class soldiers and mercenaries, as well as some designs I've seen painted on shields from the Han Dynasty in China. I'd like to make more interesting and detailed designs in future, based on in-universe mythology and cultural aesthetics, but I haven't yet had the chance to really establish a consistent visual language for ornamentation, That's still very much on the list of things I need to do. For the purposes of this sort of levy soldier though, I actually quite like this sort of symbol design. I feel like it fits as the kind of thing that would be hand painted on by either the soldier himself or his family. That's about all I've got for this one. Thanks for sticking around. This video was kind of an experiment to try out a different, more informal style of content, so let me know in the comments whether or not you found it interesting. If you'd like to chill and talk with some very cool and attractive people, I have a Discord server which I'll link in the description. I'd also like to say thank you to the people who are supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it, and I hope my content going forward doesn't disappoint. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.